Bitcoin. Here's its history. We have been in effectively a bull market with higher lows since its inception. Here we are again. We're on the way up. I think what happened this year is quite significant. It happened that the Bitcoin moved up during a risk-off, very important risk-off moment. What I'm telling you is an intraday. It hit a low during that regional bank crisis at 19,000 and shot up to 30,000. Why was that? Flight to quality, as Larry Fink would say. Flight to safety, as we would say.
2023년 비트코인의 아주 중요한 해였다고 말하는 이 인물은 돈나무 언니 캐시우드입니다. 캐시우드는 아크인베스트의 창업자이자 현 CEO를 맡고 있는 인물로 지역은행이 위기였던 지난 3월 비트코인의 가격이 치솟은 이유를 안전자산 선호 현상 때문이라고 설명합니다. 그동안 위험자산으로 인식되었던 비트코인이 어떻게 안전자산 시장에서 주목받게 됐는지 캐시우드의 인터뷰를 통해 알아보겠습니다.
Why was that? Flight to quality, as Larry Fink would say. Flight to safety, as we would say. Because there is no counterparty risk here in this decentralized, transparent monetary system, unlike what happened to the fiat monetary system in 08-09. And I think more people are beginning to understand that this is not just a risk-on asset. Can you believe? It's also a risk-off vehicle. More and more investors, including institutions, are beginning to understand this. This is innovation at its best. It is one of the 5 major innovation platforms around which we have centered our research. So robotics, energy storage, artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, and finally multi-omic sequencing. The other thing that happened actually this week was an executive order on artificial intelligence, which we think can be described as serious overreach, certainly favors the incumbents, and we think would really hurt innovation. We do think that both Bitcoin or crypto or digital asset and artificial intelligence now could become part of the election year debate. It seems like both groups, the Bitcoin and crypto digital asset community and the AI community, except for maybe the largest players, are both up in arms about this executive order. If it becomes an election year issue, we believe that candidates will distinguish themselves with their points of view on these topics. And what I found interesting in our brainstorm today is that both of these, the crypto/digital assets controversies vis-a-vis this administration, and now the AI controversy, both of them are bipartisan. So they will get some attention. And if there is a change in the administration, of course, that executive order will probably be no longer because, again, we think it's going to become an election year issue. And many people look at what's going on now and say, this is a recipe for inflation. The way to get out of debt is to inflate it away. We don't think that's going to be the case.
캐시우드는 비트코인이 다른 어떤 자산과도 비교할 수 없는 혁신적인 자산이 되었다고 말합니다. 단순한 가격 상승뿐만 아니라 암호화폐와 관련된 기술과 플랫폼이 핵심 연구 대상이 되면서 전 세계적인 이목을 끌고 있습니다. 특히 2024년 대선을 목전에 둔 시점에서 암호화폐를 둘러싼 정책적 논쟁이 더욱 커질 것이라는 주장입니다. 현재 경제시장은 고용이 둔화되고 화폐 성장률 또한 하락하고 있는 모습으로 캐시우드는 곧 재정난이 닥칠 거라고 예측하고 있습니다. 하지만 경제난 속에서도 살아남는 확실한 안전자산이 있죠. 바로 비트코인입니다. 현 시점에서 비트코인이 반드시 필요할 수밖에 없는 경제 흐름에 대해 이어서 들어보도록 하겠습니다.
Let's skip on to monetary policy. Now, Chairman Powell this week during his comments after the board meeting, I think he had an inkling that the employment reports this week were going to be weak. I think he probably had a sense of initial claims, they went up, but also perhaps an early read on the employment report. One of the reasons it is so weak is this chart. So this is money growth, M2 growth on a year-over-year basis, going back into the early 60s. We've never seen a decline in money like this. You have to go back to the 1930s, which of course was the Great Depression, to see a decline in money like this. Now we're soon going to be lapping 1 full year of negative money, we believe. If money doesn't pick up, we will conclude is becoming a serious drag on the economy, and deposits are leaving the system. The regional banks still are losing deposits. That's part of the decline in money, and that's not a good thing. In fact, the KRE Regional Bank Index is is revisiting its March lows when we were in a crisis around the regional banks. The regional bank index is a warning that Fed policy has just overdone it here. This is M2, still declining year over year. Here's the picture going back into the 70s. And when it's below zero, it means that short-term interest rates are higher than long-term interest rates, which is not normal. Typically, when the yield curve inverts, we are either in a recession or not far from a recession. We would say we've been in a rolling recession for the past year and a half. The yield curve inverted for the first time in July of 2022, so it has been more than a year. We think that it is a harbinger of much slower economic growth and lower inflation than most people believe. Today is quite something because the base of rates is so much lower. We have the long bond yield in the 4.5% to 5% range. Back in the 80s, that number was 15%, yet we have had the same degree of inversion here. That tells us that monetary policy today is much more stringent than it was even in the early 80s when interest rates were at 15%. So we think monetary policy is much tighter than many understand. And we do believe it will have a far-reaching ramifications over the next years. And as we always say, innovation solves problems. Innovation will transform the world and make it a better place. It's been such an interesting journey during this interest rate increase. We will look forward to presenting again next month.
비트코인은 단순히 금융의 규칙을 다시 쓰는 것만이 아닌 불확실한 경제 시기에 탄력적인 자산으로서의 가치를 입증하는 것을 보았습니다. 올해 2023년에는 비트코인이 격동의 시기에서 굳건하게 안전자산으로서 부상하였고, 대선을 앞둔 2024년에는 비트코인을 둘러싼 각종 정책과 규제를 주목하고 있습니다. 무한한 잠재력과 가치를 지닌 비트코인, 어디까지 성장할 것이라고 생각하시나요? 미래의 디지털 자산에 미치는 암호화폐의 영향력이 얼마나 뻗어나갈지 가늠이 되시나요? 캐시우드의 인터뷰를 통해 안전자산으로서 혁신적인 비트코인의 가치와 디지털 자산의 미래에 대해 궁금증이 풀리셨다면 구독과 좋아요 부탁드립니다. 오늘도 영상 시청해주셔서 감사합니다.